If you want to maximize your chances of getting the full $10,000 EIDL grant in this coming round, when the form goes live, I'm going to talk about how to do that in this quick video. I'm also going to clarify a couple of the common misconceptions people are having right now. Specifically, are you entitled to the full $10,000 or just $1,000 per employee? What does the low income qualification actually mean? I'm going to clarify that. And if you already received some EIDL funding, either the grant or the loan or both, what are you eligible for now? I'm going to cover those topics in this quick video. Hey everyone, this is Ryder from Skip. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sunday, January 3rd. As always, I so appreciate your support and subscribing to our channel. And this is a very important video, so I hope you can watch until the end. Right off the bat, I'll say that of course we want you to maximize your chances of getting the most possible money for your small business or side hustle. And a lot of the information I'm going to share with you in this video is based on the almost 200,000 people we helped track their EIDL grants and loans in the first go around. So a lot of it's based on not only the data we saw from who was approved and who wasn't, but also what were some of the common objections and questions some of the SBA loan officers had. So I'll briefly mention that, but again, you can track all of this on the free Skip app. It's in the App Store and Google Play under Hello Skip. The links are right at the top of the description. It's amazing. In the last 24 hours, we had another 15,000 people sign up for the free app. I just want to say off the bat, thank you for everyone leaving comments in the last video about the app, what they're liking about it, and what else they want to see. For example, here's the EIDL tracker, where right now we show you two things, both in blue. Number one, currently that no action is needed, but that'll change as soon as an application goes live. You will be the first person to know about the new application. Second is if your address qualifies for being in a low-income community, and this is based on your address that you input in here. I'm going to talk about that and answer some questions about the low-income community, but I also want to say on the app, some of you are still having some issues with regards to the app crashing. We're fixing this as soon as possible because of the overwhelming demand, so I apologize for that. If you have an issue, leave a comment. I'll answer all of those comments, but I just want you to know that by tomorrow we will have an update where we will be able to handle the amount of users on the app. But again, to the vast majority of you on the app, right now it's around 25,000 using the EIDL grant tracker, close to that number using our stimulus tracker as well, where you can see almost 5% of people have gotten their stimulus check. This is based on our self-reporting data. And on the vaccine tracker, some good news that there's been some progress. Now over 1% of the people in the US have gotten vaccinated, or at least gotten their first dose anyway. That's 4.2 million. This CDC data we updated this morning. Speaking of apps and websites, how many of you remember this website? This was the SBA EIDL loan application prior to March 29th, 2020. And this is my number one tip in today's video and why it's so important to be alert about what's happening and the changing rules. This form had been up for years. Of course, the EIDL program was never that popular. We've never had a pandemic like this before. It was very janky and the site did not work, and it was crashing for many people because of the influx of new applications middle of March to the end of March. So many people applied on this old form right here, and as soon as this new form went live at midnight on March 29th, there was confusion. Which form should I go on, the old one or the new one? A few weeks in, the SBA finally got around to telling people, hey, if you had one of these application numbers that was from the old form, you have to resubmit a new application on this form. So that was a bummer for many people because you thought you had gotten in the queue early by submitting all your documents in this very complicated form with the uploads and all that jazz. But it turns out all of that was obsolete and you were told, go do the new streamlined form. So that's the main reason why, if there's any good reason for you to download our Skip app, it's to stay on top of which form to fill out. Because some people have commented, oh, can I just fill out this form again? You know, all of this is outdated. For example, the new rules show that you have to have a business less than 300 employees. So some of this has changed. That's why we fully expect the SBA to do an updated form. You know, the SBA has learned a lot from the first go around, I can only assume. I mean, the close to 10 million people filled out this form. They put this up pretty quickly. Within a matter of a week or two, they built this. So certainly this time around, I would expect them to have a better form that's even clearer, you know, let's say more fraud proof, and easier for folks like you to quickly understand if you're eligible, especially when it comes to the low income provision. I would not be surprised if there's some something that the SBA puts together where you can also see if you are in a low-income community. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So here's why it's important to stay tuned. This is page 271 in the new bill that was signed into law. Rulemaking, in general, not later than 15 days after the date of the enactment of this act. The administrator, that's the SBA administrator, shall issue rules that ensure the equal treatment of all covered entities with respect to the amendment made by this subsection. So basically, all the new rules need to be clarified within 15 days of this act. Today, it has been 7 days, okay? So I would not be surprised if we hear something middle of this week, end of this week, or over the weekend. They have to give guidance soon. Now, they can also give guidance before they put up a new form. I don't think they're going to rush a new website that isn't perfected, because I think that invites many problems. So there's a chance they may say, yeah, here are the new rules, but the form isn't live yet. Stay tuned. We are going to put the form live on a certain date. Of course, I can imagine if they actually told you the date they're going to put the form live, the site would crash because 10 million people are going to be lined up ready to submit on day one. Whatever happens, we will keep you posted on the app. We will give you a push notification and an email. But I want to talk about the subject of this video, which is how to maximize your chances of getting the full $10,000 grant. So I want to talk about what we know and what we don't know. In the law right now, there are two pots of money for EIDL advances. There's $20 billion under targeted EIDL advances for small businesses. This is the low-income provision, and in this, they say if you are in a low-income community, if you've suffered an economic loss of greater than 30%, and if you employ not more than 300 employees, you are entitled to the full amount. It spells it out right here very clearly that you are entitled to the full $10,000. And again, it says it right here, shall receive a total of $10,000 under Section 1100 of the CARES Act, etc. But here's the other point. It does take into account any previous grant you received in the advanced program. So if you received 1K or 2K, you would need to deduct that from the 10K. And it spells that out right here under B, shall be the difference between 10,000 and the amount that previously received the grant. So you still get the 10K, but you just have to remember what you got back in the spring or summer and count that as part of the full 10K. This is not a new additional 10K. And how are they going to make decisions? Same as last time, order of processing right here. The administrator shall process and approve requests for payments under subsection B in the order that the administrator receives the requests. So this section is very clear, and some of the questions that have come up on YouTube and some of the comments and emails are as follows. Well, how do you define low income? You know, we've researched that. There is a law that talks about what is considered low income communities. I'm going to talk about that, but there's a possibility that it will change. So I just want to say, if you've used the Skip app, if you put in your business address, one of your business addresses, whichever address you choose, it should be your business address though, and it says you do not qualify, that's based on the criteria that's in the current definition. It's quite possible that the SBA clarifies this with their own metric. For example, the SBA may say we are using 2015 data as opposed to 2020 estimated census data. They may use 2015 data. We don't know. I will say, for those of you wondering how we calculate this, well, of course, you can click more info here and actually read about it, but I'll just tell you right now. Basically, based on your address, let's put in this example here. It's a random street in Oakland. And when we look at the census demographic data and we click the income tab, we pull all this data. I mean, it's a huge data set that we integrated into the apps to save you from doing all this. I just want to show you what it looks like. So percent below poverty line is over 20%. That's one of the qualifying metrics. It also qualifies under the tract median family income percent because it's less than 80% of the tract median family income. But as you can see here, there's 2015 numbers and there's 2020 numbers. Generally speaking, they may align, and sometimes you can use the full metropolitan statistical area in your calculation as well. So my main point here is that if you see on the app that it says, no, your address does not qualify, don't be discouraged. There's still hope. You should still be ready to pounce on a new application because number one, you don't know until you apply. Number two, we fully expect the SBA to clarify things when they release new rules and or a new application. So stay tuned on that. That's the low income part. There's $20 billion for that. Let's talk about the second pot of money, Section 332, Emergency EIDL Grants. Let's say it turns out you aren't in a low income community. Let's say you're in Malibu or Beverly Hills. We could take those examples right now and say, yeah, you probably won't qualify in the low income provision. So what does the emergency EIDL grants provision do? Are you eligible for the full $10,000? And my answer is probably not. But let me first say, look, I'm a big believer in the full $10,000 grants. If you've been subscribed to our channel for months, you know that back in July and August, when S4227 was introduced, this was a bill, a bipartisan bill, with 8 co-sponsors, Republicans and Democrats, said that everyone who applied for an EIDL advance, aka grant, who didn't receive the full $10,000 is entitled to the full $10,000. Instead, what happened, as you know, the SBA said it's only $1,000 per employee, up to 10 employees, so you can max out at $10,000. We wrote thousands of letters to senators to say, push for this, get this bill passed, get the full $10,000. I mean, it was a lot of effort. I spent a few weekends myself just emailing senators across the country to say, co-sponsor this bill, and so many of you supported our effort. So did that reflect in the new legislation? Well, it's not clear, but it's not specific. Remember, in the first section here, in the low-income provision, it says entitlement to full amount. You are entitled to the full $10,000, or the difference between what you got and $10,000. And it does not say that here in this section. So clearly this was thought out in detail, at least this section, because we know there was so much scrutiny. There are probably thousands of pages in this bill that didn't get much attention, unfortunately. But we know EIDL had a lot of attention for the millions and millions of businesses and individuals who applied, who pushed for S4227, etc. So we do know that this was done with some intention. And basically what it does is say, hey, the SBA can make the call. Well, the SBA made a call the first go around. They said $1,000 per employee. They figured that was the best way to maximize distribution, and they still ran out of money. So that kind of shows you that based on the limited funding they had, maybe they made the right call. They maximized the amount of people they could help. Of course, you didn't get as much as you wanted, but more people were helped. So think about it that way. Anyway, it's up to the SBA. We have another week to find out what their actual rule is. I fully suspect that it'll be the same logic, $1,000 per employee. One question would be, well, if you got more employees between March and now, could you apply with those employees? So that's a question, and I think in the rules that would be clarified. But bottom line, you have 2 buckets, a $20 billion low-income EIDL grant bucket. That's the targeted bucket. And even if you use our app and it says you're not in the low-income area, stay tuned because SBA may change that. So check on the app. And there's the second bucket as well. If you didn't get an EIDL grant the first go around, you can apply again, and probably it will be $1,000 per employee. Again, I hope I'm wrong for all the effort we did on the letter writing. I hope that it's $10,000, but we'll see. Finally, some people have asked, what if you got a loan but not a grant in the first go around? For example, on this form on page 3, there was a checkbox where you had to say, I'm interested in the advance. Well, maybe some of you were confused by that and you didn't check the box. Could you go back and get that money? Well, based on what we know so far, I would say, sure, you should apply again. It depends on what the new form is going to look like, okay? The new form may clarify, but certainly you should apply again and go for it, especially if you did not get the grant. I think there will be a new opportunity for you. So that is reason to be hopeful. Don't forget, we have a PPP tracker coming this week as well for those of you who are interested in the new PPP loan. We put up a post last night, the ultimate guide to the second PPP funding round. That's right on the app. And we did a post this morning on more information similar to what I've talked about in this video. In case you want to read it, it's also on the app. And we will be sharing more as it becomes available. As always, thank you so much for subscribing and supporting our channel. Please share with a friend, especially if you think they could use the app. If you've had any issues with the app, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions about the EIDL process, let me know in the comments. I'll try to address it in the next video. If your app is crashing, force close. We hope that helps, but if you can be patient and stay tuned until tomorrow, things should be up and ready for the demand that we're seeing. As always, thank you so much. Stay well, stay healthy, and have a good rest of the weekend.